What is going on, YouTube Nation? This is Darth Dividend. If you guys are new to my YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Make sure you give a like. That way many people can see what the BRIX rate is about and Rich Uncles. I promised you guys I would try to do a follow-up on Rich Uncles, and I have a transcript of what they said with the BRIX rate, and this is huge for our stockholders. So basically, in summary, I would like for you guys to, for my introduction with this, I had a Rich Uncle's account. I had about $7,000, and net asset value of the price per share was about $5. And it took a huge blow. So, make sure you watch my previous video on this Rich Uncle's. It's really important, kind of shows you like what happened, my reaction. But let me just read this to you guys and what happens and what they're going to be doing. So, moderator, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's investor event. My name, Mr. Bill Brahms, Chief Executive Officer at BRIX REIT, will join us at the moment and provide additional information, answer questions about the impact of the bug and the BRIX REIT portfolio. You may submit questions during the event using questions area control panel in the upper left-hand side, blah, blah, blah. All right, so this is Mr. Brahms. I'm just going to skip that part. So hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining today. My name is Bill Brahms. I'm the CEO of the BRIX REIT and will be conducting today's call. This conference is a follow-up to the communication we emailed on Friday the 22nd regarding the BRIX REIT's new net asset value, which is 32 cents per share. So it decreased from $5 per share to 32 cents. Our goal in this call is to provide greater information about our properties, how they will be impacted by the bug, and some future next steps of the REIT. We'll then move to the questions and answers. With that, let's begin. Should be noted on the onset of the net asset value, or NAV, that the REIT is an estimate of a determined of the REIT's board of directors with assistance of an independent valuation consultant at a certain point in time. BRIX REIT engaged in Cushman & Wakefield, a nationally recognized valuation agent, to conduct individual appraisals for our three largest assets. Cushman utilized a valuation methodology that adheres to the industry's best practices, and appraisals are designed to reflect known current market and property conditions at the time of the valuation. Net asset value is designed only to be a reasonable estimate of what an ordinary market buyer might pay for a REIT's assets, considering the REIT's liabilities. Said differently, an NAV is a well-educated best guess of the company's value, and the NAV per share is simply the number divided by the number of shares outstanding. BRIX REIT's decline in the NAV is mostly directly attributed to our investment in a gym property leased to 24 Hour Fitness. The decline in value from the property represents a 60% decline in the REIT's total real estate values. This property, purchased approximately a year ago for $12.8 million, is located in the Fort Worth, Texas metro area. Built in 2006, this relatively newer property represents a typical style and footprint that the 24 Hour Fitness utilized for its middle market segment. In contrast to their much larger, more expensive models used in the select high-income markets, the contractual rent for our property was $75,000 per month, representing 2/3 of the BRIX REIT's pre-bug monthly rental income. Last month, 24 Hour Fitness sent us a letter stating that they would not be paying rent due to government-mandated shutdowns. Wall Street analysts immediately predicted that 24 Hour Fitness would likely be filing for bankruptcy protection, giving their looming debt maturities and the immediate loss of revenue. Shortly thereafter, 24 Hour Fitness engaged in a third-party restructuring agent to handle negotiations with landlords and creditors. We have been in active negotiations with this restructuring representative in hopes that we may able to return 24 Hour Fitness as our tenant with rent structure that is amiable to both the BRIX REIT and 24 Hour Fitness. At present, we remain opportunistic that we'll be able to come to acceptable terms. However, any negotiated agreement will be subject to further approvals during any bankruptcy proceedings, which could take several months to resolve. It is worth nothing that an end to specific government shutdowns will probably not be sufficient for 24-hour fitness to return back to normal operations, as the economic damage caused by the pandemic will last long after companies reopen for business. Consumer confidence or lack thereof will play a big part in determining whether enough people feel comfortable returning to gyms that will sustain for 24-hour fitness operations. So this is a little interesting. So, a fitness facility, this is kind of crazy. Like, BRIX REIT is so centered on student housing and stuff that's targeting millennials and stuff. But now, gyms are open. There was one, they're open in Ohio, which is good. No certainty that we can keep 24-hour fitness as a tenant. The appraiser of this asset was required to determine pricing on a combination of two terms. First, the probability that we can get a new tenant, and second, what a buyer might reasonably pay for an empty building. Given that gyms are the purpose-built, their footprint is really only suitable for similar tenants, as their money needed to remodel a gym property to fit a different type of business would be cost prohibitive. As such, gym properties tend to be only leased to gym operators. That makes the prospect finding a new tenant difficult, especially given that nearly all gym operators are equally suffering right now. Based on these circumstances, the appraisal for this asset came in materially below the $6.1 million mortgage balance that we owe on the property, resulting in an implied paper loss of $6.7 million in equity. So that's one thing. Okay, so this is not fun. If we are able to successfully retain 24-hour fitness, then a new appraisal could result in a material value improvement. We do not expect that our prior rental rate can be maintained through such a price recovery. So a full price recovery is unlikely. During this negotiation phase with 24-hour fitness, we have asked and thankfully received temporary mortgage relief from the lender on the property. They have provided us with a short window and ending in September to see if we can retain 24-hour fitness as a tenant. If we fail to retain 24-hour fitness or fail to find a new acceptable replacement tenant, then we'll be unable to maintain our monthly mortgage payment. Any inability to pay a mortgage obligation typically results in a foreclosure of a property, which would result in loss of equity. The current valuation provided by Cushman & Wakefield represents the worst case scenario, which is believed to be appropriate given the current uncertainty. I need to drink water. All right, so the next thing, if you watch my previous videos, their fitness center is one thing. So they're talking about each of their buildings. So the next one, their second largest investment is a stadium student housing complex, which is in Iowa, serves Iowa University. They purchased it for $5.9 million, okay, and is the second greatest detractor of the BRIX REIT's net asset value, with its recent $3 million in appraisal representing a 50% decline for the property and more than 25% of the overall decline in the REIT's real estate values. I'm going to try to skim this up. So they got limited rent. Basically, the lower appraised value is directly related to the pandemic and the impact of the higher education system. So basically, it's an issue with the landlords. I'm just looking at this. So, the leasing and kids aren't in the building, so they're not really paying rent. So, there is insufficient cash to make monthly dividend distributions to investors. So that's basically what they're saying. We believe that $3.3 million appraisal represents a reasonable estimate for the value of the foreseeable future. It should be noted that its own materially smaller investments of 3 other student housing investment vehicles located in Texas and Illinois, which have been Okay, so I'm just trying to see what they're saying. So let's just discuss this. This is basically, it has a $5 million loan, the BRIX REIT, and without an extension, of it, that the auditor will be issuing a concern, and that they're basically trying to get the see how the net asset value is. So the first option would be to reopen its primary offering and raise fresh capital. This new fresh cash infusion would be used to service debt obligations not likely available for redemptions. If we are able to raise a sufficient amount of new capital, then we could fully or sustainably repay the loan. The positive benefit of this approach is it gives the REIT, assuming enough money is raised, many years to achieve full price recovery. So in my previous video, I basically said, it's going to take time. You got to be patient. So it's going to take a lot of years, 2 to 3 years, I would say. But eventually that will get, the opportunity to grow. So that's one thing. So that's what they're going to do for option one. And then they said, however, given the new 32 cents net asset value per share, this option is highly dilutive to existing investors who do not wish to purchase more shares, as new investors could acquire shares at distressed pricing. So, you don't want people, basically they're saying they don't want people to be pissed off because it's 32 cents per share. And, we paid $5 per share. We put all that in. So they're basically trying to say, we're not trying to piss you off. So the second option involves the approval of an orderly liquidation plan where the REIT seeks to sell its assets over the next 12 to 24 months. If we identify a buyer willing to purchase one of our assets for more than our recently appraised value, then the REIT would be able to capture some price of recovery while also solving for the loan repayment. Primary benefit of this approach is that it eliminates dilution and ensures any price recovery only benefits existing investors. The downside of the orderly liquidation is that there can be no certainty that a sufficient price recovery can be attained within the minimum allowed time of 24 months. While making no guarantees, we believe that a successful resolution to our 24-hour fitness property and a partial recovery of the Stadium View asset could possibly result in some price recovery in the next 24 months, potentially multiplies more than the current net asset value per share. Okay, I would hope option two would work. I put it, X amount of dollars in, and people are buying it a lot cheaper. That's the one issue that I would have. But again, just leave it alone and let things go from there. So these options are presently analyzed by the BRIX REIT's board of directors, and we anticipate presenting their recommendation to investors for approval within the next few weeks. The change of the BRIX REIT's net asset value is terribly discomforting. As a new fund with very few holdings, we immediately felt the devastating impacts caused by the shelter-in-place orders necessary to mitigate the spread of the bug. Unfortunately, there is no way someone could have predicted the bug or the BRIX REIT becoming an unexpected casualty. We regret having the bearer of the bad news, as we understand the range of emotions that are being felt, but we believe there's a possibility for future price recovery, and we are working diligently to improve upon the situation as possible. I'm just looking at this right now. Second option would be good, but I don't know. Thinking about it, I'd somewhat be okay if they did option one as well. There's a risk in everything, and I know a lot of people put a lot of money in, and that'll piss a lot of people off. I would not be surprised if, option two, I would probably say would be the best one. So, it's going to be interesting. All right, so we move on to question and answers. So here we go. Okay, where did the cash go, and what is that was used to purchase properties? It said, good question. The cash was used to purchase properties that went to the seller of each property. Only a sale of those properties will result in any cash coming back. If the property sells for more than what it was purchased for, then we'll get cash back. If it sells for less than what we purchased for, we'll get less cash back. If the property has to be given back to a lender called a foreclosure, then all the cash is lost. Beyond purchasing properties, cash also has gone to various costs associated with running the REIT, which include marketing, management, accounting, financial filings, real estate commissions, technology, legal, auditors, tax preparers, appraisals, and business taxes. Next question: why would we sell at the distressed NAV? Wouldn't it make more sense to wait and sell when the markets have recovered? They said, another good question. Yes, it always makes for better financial sense not to sell assets at a distressed price, and the REIT would not want to fire assets at 32 cents per share, but would rather seek to sell them for more money when the market improves. That's why an orderly liquidation can normally take up to 24 months. However, given the likely changes of the lease terms with the 24-hour fitness, even if we are successful with an orderly liquidation at a higher price than our net asset value per share, we do not see a reasonable scenario that gets back to our original $5 per share offering price. Investors should anticipate a loss of principal, but based on what we know today, we are optimistic that the loss will not be as bad as 32 cents of net asset per share. Next question. There is another one that we received from several investors. How do I redeem my investment now? This time the REIT remains closed to both being issued and redeemed. Even if the board of directors decide to lift our suspension of our share repurchase program, there's certainly no cash available for repurchase or redeem of shares. Given the cash constraints, if the REIT were reopened for the new investment capital, the capital would be first earmarked for pay pending debt obligations, that any excess would likely be used to pay down non-pending mortgage balances or acquire a new higher yielding asset. Only then would cash potentially be available for share redemptions. All right. However, an investor is able to sell their shares to another existing or new investor. These transactions could be called private market transactions. Please contact us if you need more information on the topic. We have a two-part question pertaining to the BRIX REIT's ability to apply for the PPP loan under the CARES Act. As we mentioned for our prepared comments, the BRIX REIT structure is made for ineligible for a PPP loan. Temporary mortgage relief was sustained on Stadium View 24-hour fitness. There is no mortgage on the Starbucks property. It should be noted that the mortgage relief, like rent relief, isn't a negotiated item between two parties and lenders. Hold full discretion as to whether grant debt relief. If a tenant does not pay their rent, the landlord has a right to not allow them to use property, but there is still no cash collected. If a property owner does not pay its mortgage, then the lender can take the property away via foreclosure. In this current environment, landlords such as the BRIX REIT are squeezed between a rock and a hard place. So a relative question was asked if our corporate tenants receive PPP loan money with which they could pay their rent with. The question applies to Starbucks and 24-hour fitness properties based on the understanding of the PPP loan program requirements and how they may apply to both of these companies, as it appears they were likely ineligible to receive any benefit from the CARES Act. Our next question asked if we are considering suing the tenants for not paying their rent. A tenant and landlord have a lease contract that lays out all numerous legal remedies available for both parties. Generally speaking, the process usually begins with a dialogue, then the process to the landlord sending a written notice of default, which then is followed by an eviction process. A landlord certainly has a right to sue a tenant, but the process, even in non-virus times, is lengthy and quite extensive. Right now, the court systems are haywire due to the shutdown, and it would take years to resolve a lawsuit with the tenant, during at which time there is no rent being paid and no ability to release property. As such, most landlords and tenants try to solve their problems outside the court system. In our case, we are working with our tenants as best as our goal to preserve economic value over the long term. Our next question is about our student housing assets. An investor asks, what are we doing to collect rents from students? The on-site property managers of their assets are working diligently to collect all the rent they can. In those instances where there are parental guarantees, they have also reached out to the parents. There have also been some rents collected, but not 100%, and the rents that are collected are going towards the operating expenses of the assets. With students vacating their properties, the cost to pursue back rents is very high and usually results in little gain. In those instances where the students have not let the premises but haven't paid their rent in full, current prohibitions on evictions can weaken the leverage in landlord and force a tenant to pay. Lastly, it should be noted that most of the student housing lease expire at the end of May, and the summer months are typically the months with highest vacancy. And the next question, it reads, investors who have lost money or no longer receiving dividends, are the employees of the REIT taking a cut? They said that's a great question. Many investors do not fully appreciate that BRIX REIT has no employees. Even though I am the company CEO, I am not employed by the REIT and I do not receive any compensation for the REIT. The BRIX REIT does not have an external advisor, which is owned by RW Holdings and NN REIT. But as mentioned before, that advisor waived the $300,000 fees of the BRIX REIT owed and also waived an ongoing current compensation. Further, though unrelated to BRIX REIT, the CEO and NN REIT has volunteered to take home any salary. He decided not to take home any salary with the remainder of the year. All the work managing on the properties, analyzing the scenarios, and working with the investors by external advisor being done at no cost to the BRIX REIT advisors. All right, here's a really good one. This investor asked if the BRIX REIT has a $5 million loan due in October, how are they planning to pay it off before this, bug occurred? The $5 million loan is structured in a revolving line of credit. We have the ability to draw the money and repay and repeat the process. When we first launched the REIT, we drew down the line of credit to acquire the Stadium View asset, and we were able to pay most of it down with capital inflows. Over the last year, we do the line of credit again. Thus, time to find a portion of our 24-hour fitness acquisition. We also fund operational expenses when the fund was closed to new capital. The lender of this loan provided us an extension back in the fall of last year, primarily based on historical ability to raise new capital and pay it down like we had in the past. Given the volatility of the capital markets and the fact that the REIT has been closed to new capital since the beginning of April, the REIT has currently lost its ability to raise capital like it traditionally did. This makes it harder for the lender to extend the loan maturity as the path to repayment has become less clear. If we're open to the REIT back up to new capital and be back on track to raise a $5 million in the next few months, then the lender would likely be more receptive to granting another extension. However, as mentioned previously, our board of directors would likely want to introduce any recommendation to open the REIT's new capital only to all existing shareholders. First, raising capital from outside investors would be dilutive to existing investors. Needless to say, it's complicated, but we are all over it and providing any updates as they arise. All right, we are looking through the questions submitted. Let's see. So here's a question that popped up a couple times that asks, I want to buy more shares at this distressed NAV price. Can I? This time the REIT remains closed to both shares being issued and redeemed. A lot of investors might think the easy solution is open the REIT to new capital, but that only works if investors are okay risking dilution. For example, to raise $1 million at the old $5 net asset value per share only required issuing or selling 200,000 shares. To raise $1 million at 32 cents per share, the REIT would need to issue over 3 million shares. Now, if those 3 million new shares went proportionately to all existing investors based on what they own with the rate today, then there would be no dilution. However, not all investors want to or are able to put more money into the BRIX rate. As mentioned before, the board of directors is analyzing all options and will present its recommendation to all investors in the next few weeks, if not sooner. If the rate opens to new capital, then investors can buy more shares. Last question. The one appears to be more lighthearted. And the question is, if we have any plans to sue China. So there is no doubt all of us are searching for reasons to why this happened to us. It is certainly hard sometimes to separate emotion from logic, but as investment managers, our job is to do the best we can. Pardon my French, but it's sometimes crap that happens in life, and it's our duty, better yet, our opportunity to turn lemons into lemonade. We have been handed a big bowl of lemons, and the news is bitter and sour and very painful. However, we believe that we can improve this net asset value per share and claw our way back into something better than what we have today. We probably can't get back to where we were yesterday, but there's plenty of opportunity to be better than tomorrow. All right, so my response, and then you guys can respond that are involved with the BRIX rate or maybe even the NNN rate if you guys read your response. So, I mean, there's no winners. I mean, I'm looking at the first option and second option. So, I mean, the problem is it's 32 cents of net asset value per share. If I knew that they were going to do that, I'd probably throw 1,000 in them right away. I mean, I have money saved up for grad school, but there's a lot of potential there. It's just going to suck because I have like 1,000 shares, and I was reinvesting those dividends like crazy, and they fulfilled the 6% return, and that would be interesting. I am anticipating they'll probably try the second option. I mean, the issue is this is a tough one. I mean, I'd be okay with the first one, but people, if they gave me first dibs, all the investors in purchasing shares, I'd be all for it, because I mean, it gave off a nice percentage, and we got to get that debt out of the way. I mean, there's people who put a crap load of money in this. I mean, it's just thinking about it. I mean, option one could be another thing, but wow. I don't know. I mean, this is a tough call. I'd have to really figure out what they're going to do. But, I have a feeling that, the second option sounds real good, but, the first option, I mean, you get a blow. I mean, the money will fix itself over time. I mean, once it gets better, I'm anticipating they'll probably do phase one or the first option. Although the second option was probably, in my opinion, the best case scenario, but they got a couple of options, and if they can give us first dibs, there's a lot of people that have a lot of money in this. If they give us first dibs to throw in more money, I would probably do it. If they allowed us as a investor to put in some money or purchase shares, ahead of time, I would do it. It's for everyone else, and two, we'll get back to where it was. But oh my gosh, this is a tough call. They do not wish to purchase more shares as new investors could acquire shares at a distressed pricing. That's going to really piss people off. That's why you have to be diverse. It's I'd have to really think about this. I'm going to have to speak with these guys over the phone and really understand some scenarios they have. This is a really crazy scenario. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to just leave it right here. If you guys are looking at this, I'm going to give it about a minute or two. And I'm going to check my phone real quick because people are made a... All right, so I was just going to check something, but I wanted you guys to read this real quick and give me your response on that. I think I'm going to hold on to it. Obviously, it's so crazy. With this, with everything being thrown at once because you put all that time and money and things are looking really good and then it happens. But this is why you diversify. This is why I have the Death Star. If I lose a Star Destroyer like this, or a Super Star Destroyer, or an Imperial Walker, I'll call the BRIX REIT my Imperial Walker, I still have the Death Star. So that's the best way of saying it with my dividend portfolio, which I do plan on having a video on Monday. I made some really big changes to my M1 Finance, and I will post a fundrise video tomorrow. But I want to just see what you guys think. This is this stings. It's but you have to be diversified. This is why I make this channel, because this helps us think as investors, and it's important to diversify. Look, I have this happen, and then in my previous video I discussed about how my employer, I'm a nurse working on the floors with the bug, and my hospital I work at decides to cut the funding, or the matching of my 401k. So it's like, whoa, I got this and this thrown at me. How am I going to react? I can look for a new job. If they touch my tuition reimbursement, that's a different story. They're not going to see me in a month. That's almost a guarantee. But this is tough. It's going to take time. There's some, these guys do a really good job of the phone. They don't guarantee anything. It's just, I feel bad for these guys because they're probably getting a shitload of heat. There's a lot of people that put a lot of money in it. I've heard some stories from people, how much they put in and the potential of this. This could have been, this could be a stock in the future if they decide to go public. My goal is to make $1,000 to $3,000 a month, $1,000 to $3,000 in monthly dividends. And I was hoping that these guys would help me. But again, you got to be patient. Don't panic. I'm going to hold. This is the biggest test I've ever had as an investor, is having something like this thrown at me. And, based on the principles that I've had and the discipline, I'm going to definitely hold. And I will keep you guys posted in the future on how this BRIX rate is going to be impacted. I still feel very positive about this. This is just a crazy thing. It's a very diversified rate, but that one got hit the most, probably out of any rates out there. It's just crazy. Real estate sector took a huge blow. And I think once students start going back, it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a little bit to rebuild. So crazy, but that's about it. So thank you again for watching this video. If you guys are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Make sure you hit a like in this video. I will post my previous video in the corner on the rich uncles, and I will also put my playlist in the comment section so you can see how I was doing the whole time and before for a huge curveball hit the BRIX rate. So thank you again. Have a great Friday. Make sure you guys are safe. Make sure if you guys are peacefully protesting, make sure you wear a mask so you don't potentially get the bug. And the bug is still out there. We are still at war with the bug, and I think we're headed in the right direction. So I'm very excited to see people get better in the news, and people are recovering, and there's things going on there. So just glad that people are safe, and justice happened with the murder of Mr. Floyd. Is terrible what happened. I don't care what race or color you are or what your beliefs are. What happened to that man was terrible. So I hope you guys are safe out there protesting. I am very disturbed, as many people are. I don't like to discuss politics, but what happened to that man was very tragic. I feel terrible for the family. I feel terrible for the people that were affected by this and people affected by the bug. So it's really affecting people systemically, and I'm crossing my fingers it'll get better. You guys have been very positive on this channel. You guys have been incredible. I enjoy doing these videos, and I want you guys to make money, make more money than me. This is why I post these videos. So take care and have a good one.